You're listening to POV, the Portland Ovations podcast. I'm your host, Galen Koch. In this episode, we're focusing on a performance that was scheduled to happen, but didn't. COVID-19 ushered in a new normal all over the world. And for now, we won't be gathering in public theater spaces or venues to watch performances together. Toto Kisaku would have performed his original theater piece, Requiem for an Electric Chair, this past April at the John Ford Auditorium at Portland High School. Although that performance was postponed, Portland Ovations will bring Toto to Maine next year, and we, as a community, are offered an unexpected gift. We can learn about Toto's story and the impact of his work long before he performs at Portland High School. Toto Kisaku's Requiem for an Electric Chair is a powerful, intimate, physical performance focusing on a traumatic event in Toto's life.
So in the car, I lost consciousness.
Toto is a playwright, actor, director, and producer from the Democratic Republic of Congo. His work tells true stories of his own personal trauma and the trauma of his community. Through his artwork, Toto provides a space for the audience to learn and experience his story through both dramatic performances and dark comedies. And for Toto, art has the power to save us.
As a storytelling, I think I like telling my story, my own stories. When I was 30 years old, I decided to make funny my life because it was not really fun, It was hard to get to get food. I was with my mother, It was like a really childhood, very difficult time, and I decided to make funny about my first 30 years old since my mother met my father until my 30 years old. It's really funny. And for me, it was like a treatment, like a cure. And after that, I was able to be more open to others.
The piece Toto is referencing, Meeting in Plural, is available in French on YouTube. Toto grew up in Kinshasa, in the DRC. He studied drama at the National Institute of Arts there and founded KMU Theater in 2003. For the next 15 years, Toto traveled the world performing his plays. He is an international artist, now living in Middleton, Connecticut, after seeking political asylum in the United States in 2015. Toto's original play, Requiem for an Electric Chair, is a deeply personal and traumatic story.
I was kidnapped, sequestrated for 7 days. On the 7 days, I was taken from that place in order to be killed. The guy just, at the time that he has to pull the trigger, he said, "I cannot kill you because I know you," and he shot up.
Toto was saved because his executioner had seen his play about children who were accused of sorcery in Kinshasa. According to UNICEF, in 2010, there were 20,000 children accused of sorcery living on the streets of Kinshasa. In Toto's experience, families living in poverty would ask their pastors why they were poor. The answer was often that a child was bringing the devil into their home. Children were forced out of homes at an alarming rate.
When I realized that things was really destroying societies, so why I decided with my team to create that piece, Basalia Bazoba. So the piece was performed like more than 100 times in Kinshasa, and for more than 150,000 people saw the piece. So the piece has a big impact in Kinshasa because in that period, that moment, every pastors, every churches stopped to accuse kids of sorcery. The theater that I made saved lives in Congo. And the guy who saved me, he saved me because he saw my play. So my play saved people. The play saved me. And the only thing I have to be grateful is about turning my writing to the theater piece. So for me, it was the only way I have to be grateful to the theater.
Although Toto's work often focuses on specific moments in his own life, the stories he tells of personal trauma and depression are relatable to so many people across the globe. And for Amy Petrin, Portland Ovations executive and artistic director, it's clear that Toto's work and story resonate with communities in Maine.
With Toto, what I was struck by are two things. One is that he's an incredible theater artist, and he has toured internationally. He's been presented at numerous festivals, and he has an incredibly high level of craft. But he's also has an amazing personal story, and it's how those two things come together that really compelled me to consider bringing Toto to Portland. I think that there's a lot of really interesting stories in the world, but when you pair that with somebody who is a true and studied and practiced theater artist, those stories can really come to life, and they move beyond one's personal story to something that's more universal. And that's what really struck me about Toto, is that he's able to take, because of his theater background and because of his work for decades, he's able to take what is a deeply personal story and transform it into something that many of us could connect to in terms of themes of resilience and perseverance and hope. And that's what I find to be extraordinary about Toto.
Petrin was so struck by Toto upon first meeting him in New York City that she immediately texted Coffee by Design co-founder and community builder Mary Ellen Lindeman.
I was at a meeting and she texted me and said, I just have to show you a clip of a piece that I'm looking at, because I think not only is it a critical piece to bring to Portland, but I think that you're the perfect sponsor for it. And so I was sent just a tiny clip of Toto's Requiem for the Electric Chair, and I think I maybe got through a minute of it and texted her back, I'm in.
For Lindeman, Toto's work resonated on multiple levels. She is the incoming chair of Portland Ovations Board, the co-chair of the Portland Immigrant Welcome Center Board, and an enthusiastic advocate of progressive artwork.
It was such a perfect piece for us, because at Coffee by Design, when we actually search for what do we sponsor and what do we support, I always think about it through the lens of we always talk about everyone being welcome at our table. And how do these words become action? And it is through sponsoring Portland Ovations and programming like Requiem for the Electric Chair that we support our goal of progressive arts leading to inclusive social change.
Here's Amy Petrin.
I'm always thinking about, well, how will this work connect to Portland and to Maine audiences? There's so many ways that we can think about our different communities, and how do we help tell their stories, or help celebrate their cultures, or even help to draw out the stories from our own community. And I really saw the opportunity to bring Toto as a way not just to bring an amazing piece of theater, but also to use it as a springboard for us to engage in our own conversations in the community and to bring our own stories forward of people who have either faced similar situations or just have other stories of resilience and hope.
Bringing any artist to Portland involves a vast network of partners and collaborators. To host Toto's performance and workshops next year, Portland Ovations connected with the Greater Portland Immigrant Welcome Center, Portland High School, Indigo Arts Alliance, The Telling Room, and Coffee by Design. Through collaborations and community partners, Portland Ovations can create programming that connects to diverse communities in Maine and encourages and celebrates important cultural conversations. Marcia Minter is co-founder and executive director of Indigo Arts Alliance and serves on the board of Portland Ovations. For her, these community partnerships help support the integrity of Portland Ovations' mission.
You know, as a board member, my service isn't just coming to a meeting and then leaving. My service is really, especially since I've been serving on the board for a very long time now, my service has really been in the act of brainstorming and thinking about how we can actually be working actively toward that intersection of the arts and social justice, and recognizing that that is the work that we're actually doing, that it is not about, oh, I'm going to choose someplace on the globe and pick some cool artist and bring them here to perform. It's not only about that, it's about so much more than that, because we're looking at the long-term impacts to our community in terms of what they're exposed to and who they're exposed to.
For Indigo Arts Alliance and Portland Ovations, working at the intersection of the arts and social justice means actively promoting Black and Brown artists in Maine. Hosting Toto in Portland is deeply meaningful for the state. He shares his universal stories of living through and against incredible odds, and he makes artwork from the Democratic Republic of Congo visible and tangible to those present.
We know that the Congolese population is one of the largest African immigrant populations we have in the state. By his being here, it elevates and amplifies not just his story, but the story of all of the Congolese people that are here, and certainly, again, for all of the African immigrants that are here. And then, you know, when we look further and broader out, we just look at the concentric circles of all of the other people of African descent and so forth and so on in terms of people of color, and then just the larger population. We need to make sure that we are really seeing each other and we really understand each other's experiences, and that helps to kind of make those connections real.
For Papi Bongibo, Toto's future performance in Portland is a positive step forward. Bongibo came to Portland, Maine from the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2010 and represents over 3,000 Congolese in the state as the president of the Congolese community of Maine.
I think it's important to bring artists here because it makes us proud, and also it's a way to share people who's gonna come to the performance who will learn about how talented, artistically, the Congolese people are. So I think it's also a way for him to represent us. Very proud, because when you live somewhere far away from home, and especially to me, this is gonna show the people of Maine, everybody in general, who we are. Because the Congo, it's not only about the bad politics, it's not only about the war that's going on, that's destroying the country. There's so much thing to know or to learn about the Congolese. But I think this is good because I don't think most Mainers knows about the Congo, except the politics, when you talk about politics, yes. But this is another approach, for the people of Maine to learn about how talented, we are.
Who are we before arriving at this place? Are we just shadows upon this world's fallen? Just after they arrived?
So what we should do, we will start our life where we are and put our background on the table and share with people that we found in community. That's important. Do not just leave, our background. The only thing we have to take from our story is our background, our experience that we have to share. We all have the story to tell.
Toto invites us to be curious about our own stories and the stories of those around us. We are not all defined by our hometown or home state or home country. When asked where his home is, Toto Kisaku replies that he is a citizen of the world.
Being a citizen of the world, for me, it's like accepting the difference. When you cannot defining the world like just a simple map, you know. If you cannot define the world as just a simple map, that means you are a citizen of the world.
That is a feeling that Mariella Uwimana relates to. Mariella lives in Portland, Maine, and she grew up in Butare, Rwanda. She is the program coordinator for Greater Portland Immigrant Welcome Center's Immigrant Business Hub.
Myself, I don't feel like I'm a refugee, or refugees should be vulnerable for the world. Because of what happens to them, they are victim of the actions of the power of the countries or of the superpowers. It's really very important for the world to look at that and not oppress the refugees continuously or all the time, because it comes from the top to them, but then until the end, they still become the victim of the world. Being a refugee, if you can manage to run away from what's killing you, you should be free. You should be treated as a human being.
Mariella is a survivor of the Rwandan genocide, and she has spent decades unpacking her own narrative. Sometimes that meant hiding from it, sometimes that meant facing it head-on. Mariella found healing herself in sharing her story with her family and those close to her.
After seeing Toto's stories or what he does, it really came to my mind, because many people in the community are struggling with the trauma, with their past. We're having a huge issue of understanding and accepting what happened to us. I believe and I strongly see and understand that we people, no matter whether where we came from or which journey we have had different journeys, but in life now I've come to realize that people go through a lot. And then especially people who have been moving from one side of the world to another or to here, we have lots of trauma and we have lots of difficulties. So it's very important for Toto to come here. At least people can watch his resilience and his way of telling the story. Then will help people maybe to understand or to be aware of how they can themselves be open or understand how to tell or how to heal through telling their stories.
Toto's story reminds us that there is more to each human being than what we first encounter. His story invites us to see the world with greater compassion, more empathy. Here's Amy Petrin of Portland Ovations.
We're all global citizens and we all have extraordinary stories, and we all, I do think that at the end of the day, we all want to be happy, we all want to be safe, we all want to feel joy, we all want to be seen, and this is what theater does for us. This is what, in any moment, that connection, that deep connection that it provides for ourselves, that deep connection it provides to the person sitting next to us, and that deep connection that we also feel with the artist on stage. And that's all those intersections of what I call resonance, those vibrations. That is what makes this makes this so powerful.
Toto's story is of survival, and it is also, like Mariella's personal history, a story of great strength. By hosting Toto in Maine next year, Portland Ovations invites the community to consider where we all come from, how we all got here, what our own patterns of migration might be, and how we understand and define home. We are also invited to think deeply about the way we treat each other as fellow humans.
For me, everywhere I went, I was feeling this is my place, because anywhere we have to feel our feet in the ground, it's our place. That is where I suppose to be. That is my place.
Thank you for listening to POV from Portland Ovations. Special thanks to Toto Kisaku, Amy Petrin, Mary Ellen Lindeman, Marcia Minter, Mariela Uimana, and Papi Bangibo for their time. POV is supported by a major grant from the Maine Humanities Council. Toto's appearance in Maine and this edition of POV are also funded in part by the New England States Touring Program of the New England Foundation for the Arts, made possible with funding from the National Endowment for the Arts Regional Touring Program and the 6 New England state arts agencies, the Center for Cultural Exchange Fund, as well as by a generous business sponsorship by Coffee by Design.